Shock, horror, outrage, market manipulation is here to stay, my friends. And we have the chief market manipulator here today, along with some of his buddies, his partners in crime. We're going to have a great stream today, guys. Welcome to Rob Does Pokemon. I am joined today by the wonderful Dama. Dama, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Hello, I actively manipulate the market for financial gain, and I steal all your cards. And that's what I'm going to do.
Where can everybody find you doing that, my friend?
You can find me doing that on, you can find me doing that on Whatnot 24 hours a day. Ripping packs, crumbling packs, 7 ETBs. You know how it is. But yeah, I do things on my channel. That's pretty much it. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here, man.
At Dama Collects Cards on YouTube.
What a terrible name. Too damn long.
Better than Rob Does Pokemon.
I like yours. I do like yours.
Well, flattery will get you everywhere.
Has pizzazz.
Flattery will get you everywhere. We are joined as well by some pretty awesome guys. I got Colin, the PokeOffice, my co-host, is here tonight on time. Thank you, Colin.
Yes,
I really appreciate it. Superstar. And of course, the wonderful, effervescent, ever enigmatic MimikBrew.
What's going on, Bruce?
We got to talk very quickly about the thumbnail. Okay, we got to chirp down a little bit. So I made a thumbnail, and guys, when you make thumbnails for different content creators on different timelines, sometimes things don't go according to plan. You should see some of the images people send me, and Dam's one was pretty tame. He sent me an image, but the ears were cropped off of his MimikBrew costume. So I'm going to add to stage what I came up with today. And
you should just show them the before and after. You should show them what I sent you and what you created, so they know how bad it is.
Just imagine this picture of Brew on the right
here.
What
even is that?
With the ears
Mimikyu with pig ears.
So I had no choice but to put it through one of those AI image enhancing programs, and it gave him these kind of bunny ears that are going, whatever these kind of demonic kind of bunny ears are. And at first, he didn't say anything. And then he messaged me and said, "Hey, can we change my shirt to pink?" And I didn't realize he'd sent me another picture with a pink shirt in. And I'm thinking, dude, I can't Photoshop your shirt to be pink in this picture. Like, I'm not doing that. I got stuff to do today. And then he messages me this big long message about how he can't come on the live if these ears are in the thumbnail. So,
bro, did you see how professional and courteous I wrote that? I'm sorry, I will not be on your live with you tonight. No hard feelings.
I was like, oh man, I've broken this guy. Like, what have I done? So yeah, we ditched that thumbnail. The one you guys have seen is up there. But I want to get into market manipulation today, guys. I want to start talking a bit about everything that's been happening. I mean, I'm going to pull up Drowsy. You guys know all about Drowsy. Everybody's been talking about it. It's the poster child for these illustration rares going nutty. Dama, let's start off a little bit with kind of what do you see happening with these cards? Like, what is the real story from your standpoint on the pumping side of things? Like, give us a breakdown here.
The market's been super easy to manipulate for a long time. It's happened way before, like Iron Crown. Ghastly was primarily for Scarlet and Violet when people kind of got a hold of it occurring. But it's occurred much, much longer before that. Like it's happened a long, long time. And it's happened clearly off a TCG player. It's happened on eBay. It's happened on like any form of like any consignments through eBay. People are doing it. Any like... the places where people middleman to get items that are expensive, it happens on there. It's been going on for a long, long time. So the fact that it got to TCG player with Modern, I think people realized how inexpensive it is to move a card. And when you kind of understand the math behind it and how to push the average up of a card, how to push a narrative, whether it be like, I don't know how often it's happening now because I don't go on Reddit, but I'm sure on Reddit there are many, many, many burner accounts that just post things doing with X card and saying like, oh, I didn't know this was happening, or wow, this price went up. And it's like, that's feeding into the FOMO. It feeds into it, and then people inherently go and buy the card. And you literally don't even need a community to push a card. You just need to spark enough controversy or conversation, and then the rest will do its own. And depending on the state of the market, whether it's busy or not, you can still do it. It's just right now, it's so much easier because there's so many eyes watching at every given moment. And between like the sneaker people, the crypto people, the whatever finance individual from any sector, everybody's at Pokemon right now. So this is like, it's if you see a card and it's got sub 100 volume and a lot of the copies are moving up in price quickly. It's like, oh, I can spend $400 and turn all my $4 purchases into $25, and then I can offload it to anybody who will be willing to buy it because they're FOMOing. I'm going to do it. And that's kind of what's, I believe, has been happening. And then adding the Discord groups, that just fuels the fire. And I've never seen one, actually. I don't know if anybody has actively like seen these, but like I made a joke about it on my Instagram. I was like I can make a post like the Blood Moon Ursa Luna one about any card and just say it happened and throw it out there as like some kind of propaganda that this is occurring. But like I'm sure they do exist, but I don't know to what degree, right?
Yeah, I saw that Blood Moon Ursa Luna screenshot. Somebody sent me that, like, hey, it's happening and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I've no doubt it's there. But I mean, you know, it reminds me very much of like the pump fun stuff on Solana, on that exchange right now. It's like, hey, we're going to launch this meme coin or this shit coin or whatever, and let's all pump it up until it hits X point, and then we'll all dump it at once and do a rug pull. Like, seems very similar to that on that super low sales volume, right? Which is easy to manipulate. Rock, I can't read your comment for legal reasons because you're underage. But that apparently is the next art rare we are going to be seeing, is that card there. You guys can read it in your minds if you want. Thanks very much to everyone who's joining in the chat. If you're watching afterwards, please drive safely, whatever you're doing while you're listening to this. MimikBrew, you're here in the house, man. So I heard you and Dama were buying out a bunch of cards recently. So what's the next one to pump, my friend?
I literally am just a dude who's guilty of buying really cheap Pokemon cards that are nice looking. And literally, that's all it is. It's not my fault. Nothing that has happened recently is my fault. I'd never have liked spending. Okay, so I sold the first edition base set Charizard. Once you do that for $300, you don't really care about super expensive cards anymore. So all I'm saying is the last 2 years, part of the appeal of illustration rares have been that I can get them for $3, $5, $7. And to be honest, the fact that there's all these new people in the hobby that don't have that opportunity, and then they also can't get sealed product, I actually think, depending on what time you entered the hobby, is determining how horrible of a time you are having right now. Because if you entered like me, you know, like several years ago, but then even 2 years ago, got all these IRs, I almost have 2 complete era master sets plus a bunch extra. And I paid like $5 for every one of them, you know, and literally that's not, no one's going to ever be able to do that ever again, especially when some of these, one of the 300 different IRs is selling for over $1,000 in a PSA 10 slab. Like, you are not getting $2, $3, $4 IRs ever again. And I got to eat that shit up for like 2 whole years. And all the time in my comment section, people are like, I just came in 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. You know, I just barely got in, got a little surging sparks, and now I'm screwed. Now all these IRs I could have got the same week I got in are too expensive. So I just lately, over the last week, like, have started to not think of things so lightheartedly anymore and almost think of things more seriously, if you know what I'm saying. Because I'm really lucky, and a lot of other people aren't so lucky and like wish they had what I had. And, you know, obviously a lot of more people have way bigger collections than me. Zelda, sorry, I'm just gonna stop, but you get what I'm saying. So we can joke about it a lot, but I actually think it sucks for a lot of people, and it's easy to not realize that. You know, when you're thinking, oh, all of us just can't get sealed product. And again, the flip side of that is if you have time and years in this hobby, you get to reap the rewards of the other half, which is all your stuff just shot up in value. But again, all new collectors, anyone who has entered over the last 3 to even, I'd say, 6 months, because if you entered 6 months, you got just enough to really get hooked before you couldn't get anything. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying there's a lot of people that actually sucks for. And so these little tiny things like the vending machine, all these anti-scalper things, those can actually go a long way for people. So I think we need to see way more of that. And then like I'll joke more and talk about pumping and how funny it is and stuff like that.
So time in the market beats timing the market. I'll let you deal with Zelda there as well, my friend. So, Colin, these illustration rares that have shot up in value, should they be $1, $2 cards? Should they be $20, $100 cards? Should we be seeing Magikarp selling for...
Come here, all the way.
Should we be seeing Magikarp selling for like $1,000 in a PSA 10?
I mean, as much as I maybe don't like it all the time, if people are willing to pay for it, then it's worth that much. Like, that's my opinion of it. And and I don't think any illustration rare should be a $2 or $3 card. What's the pull rates on an illustration rare? Like even in the first couple sets of Scarlet and Violet era, what was it? I think you got 3, 4, 5. I didn't hear what someone just said.
Oh, it's like 1, 12, 1 and 13 per box, but like if you're getting into tins and blisters and all that, it can be anywhere from like 1 to 10 to 1 to 15. It's just it changes if you're a booster box.
But like if you open a booster box of kind of the easier pull rate sets, Scarlet and Violet base, Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames, you're getting 3 or 4, maybe 5 illustration rares out of your packs. And like they're beautiful cards. Like it was a travesty, in my opinion, that the Gloom and the Ninetales and the Cleffa from Obsidian Flames were like all $10 or less. Like it's just insane. So I think they're all worth more than that. And now people are willing to buy it. I think there's just been this really, really clear message in the Pokemon space that there's tons of people complaining about the prices right now, but there's still tons of people buying the product right now. So I think that's just the way it is.
What do you think, Dama? You think you should see these values? Like, I mean, is that part of the reason that people are like so willing to go in and say, yeah, sure, I want to keep buying this card even though it's gone up 1,000%? Like,
I mean, I think it's a lot to do with you have a lot of new people in the hobby that are, you know, it's a very if you correlate it to any market, and I like to use any market because a lot of individuals are from other markets coming here, and they repeat the same things. Where it's like you see something going up, you don't want to miss out on it, but 9 times out of 10, when the card's already gone up 100, 200, 300, 400%, it's if you're buying it at that price, a lot of the time it's kind of done. But there's also a kind of counter argument to that, which is, well, if I buy it at this price, what if this has an effect on the PSA 10 price? Because now the card at the raw price is so expensive, the PSA 10 will go up, and now the 10 will be worth a lot more. So even if I buy it the high, I can still justify it because then I can grade it, and it'll be worth way more than it was before. And like, there's so many arguments, but are these cards worth the value they're at now? I think when you look comparatively at illustration rares to past like Sword and Shield era or Scarlet and Violet SIRs, right? Like the only difference is texture and to a degree the hit rates and rarity, right? So you're taking a bunch of different Pokemon that typically don't get love, that can come in any, whether it be a Babymon, a mid evolution, a final evolution, a legendary, whatever. Mythic, it doesn't matter what it is, it can get an illustration rare. And then you put that in a big pool of however many are per set. Look at like Scarlet Violet base with 24. Then you add in a dash of quality control and see how that affects the 10 rates, how that affects the quality of the card. And you can kind of see how these cards can be worth a lot more than what they were for a long time. And then when people start learning more about the market and how the market works, how volume works, how average price works, how hit rates are with a specific card, not just any illustrate, but a very specific one you want. All this stuff kind of overloads in your head and you're like, how is this card even $3-4? Like, even like, I'll use one card. I know I'm not pumping this card, but look at like this, what is it? The Bruxfish illustration rare. I think Bruxfish is super ugly. My opinion. Great Pokemon for some people, and heck yeah if you love it. But in my opinion, I'm like, how could Bruxfish ever be over a $3 card? But then you understand like the hit rates, you understand that it has its own little niche community, and you think about like the full art and illustration of it, and it's like, well, yeah, I can get it because it's its own full illustration of a Pokemon that people are going to love. And over time, at $3, that just seems like wild. And it's not like illustration rares are mass printed to the degree of specific, like, look at the Pikachu from Celebrations, like the full art kind of replica of what we would call an illustration rare now. It's like that card was crazy, wildly printed. There's so many out there. But I mean, illustration rares, they're not to that degree, but look at what they're doing price-wise. You could say, oh, that card will go up because it's, illustration rares, I think, have been undervalued, and a lot of eyes are on them now. And you add a dash of buyouts, people being driven by money, you're going to see these cards hit highs. And let's say a card, and this is something a lot of people need to understand in terms of market manipulation or buyouts in particular, because a lot of people don't know this. When a card is bought out, say it goes from a $4 card to a $25 card. It's not like the card is going to crash to the ground after this buyout. It will correct usually around half the value it was at its peak. So if a card goes from a $4 to $5 card up to a $25, but then crashes down to 10 to 12, did it really crash from its beginning? No, the individuals that bought it out are still crazy happy because they're still up double, maybe triple in some cases what they paid. So it's like, but that does have a negative effect on the card if you're looking at what it once was. But if you're looking at like what you think it should be, then I guess it's good for you. And then there's the conversation of, is it good or bad if a card goes up in value or somebody buys a lot of a card because now you're taking it from other people at said cheap price. But then the argument back could be, well, if your problem is price, why don't you go buy the Japanese copy that is inherently so cheap in comparison in 99% of the cases, or was before it got ridiculous? So there's so many viewpoints to it, and it's interesting to hear them all. But I think illustration rares have been undervalued. I don't think some should be the value they're at, but I definitely think they've been undervalued.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with that. Yeah, and I mean, we've got the comment up here about Magikarp on the screen, so I brought it up. I mean, that PSA 10 pop isn't growing anywhere near as fast as some of the alt arts from Sword and Shield, for example. Like, it's a very difficult card to grade here. According to the grade, is like 20%. Graded profit is huge, and I think Magikarp was a bit of what you said, Dama. Like, it went up. I think it was a bit of a pump, and then it got corrected, and then it just kind of captured the imagination. It was in the zeitgeist, and it was that card. It was that time.
Same thing with Ghastly, man. Ghastly did the same exact thing.
Exactly.
It's just Magikarp.
Yeah, it's just, this is what happened. Yeah. And hey, did you guys know there's a Gyarados at the top of this card? I guess it's all the time. All the time. Dan, you had a couple of things. I put you on mute just because you were dealing with Zelda there. But you had a couple of things you wanted to ask of Dama. I wanted to hand it over to you just for a sec, my friend.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you said you had some interesting, I can read your text. I had some interesting topics I want to ask Dama, is what you said. Otherwise, I can continue with my thread.
Do you, why don't you read exactly what I said? I don't remember
the first bit's about the thumbnail. I don't like the ears.
Okay, you know what? I said I had some interesting takes. I would
saying some pretty interesting stuff. So I would, what interesting stuff do you have for us today?
Well, I mean, you were supposed to ask for an opinion, and then the opinion would be interesting. You don't just give the opinion out of nowhere. So long as you ask the correct questions, I will give you interesting.
Sorry, interesting is very vague. Sorry, interesting, very vague. What's the next full arts? The full arts, the next one's to pump. I don't know. What do you? I think you said something about that.
The full art is the poor man's IR.
The Charizard from 151.
Well, that's the obvious play, so that'll have a pop of 50K. So, okay. There's a lot of takes. I mean, we can talk about a lot of stuff, but so the whole pop report thing, can we talk about that? Because I didn't say anything, so it was muted.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did speak up twice, and I was like, all I was gonna say is like, okay, so two things here, and I probably already forgot the first one. There's a lot of people that like Pokemon cards. There's a lot of those people that have the most money who are part of the cabal or the vintage people. They don't like illustration rares yet, but they're about to. And so the big money, might be getting bored with vintage because they probably have everything, and everything that's off brand is fake nowadays. So they might try to swing big in modern, except in modern, they hate and they can't stand the fact that pop doesn't matter anymore. So, but guess what? Now they're about to discover illustration rares. And then now they're going to be like, oh my God, it's the best of both worlds. It's modern, but the pop does matter. And I could sell it for $1,000. Oh my God, the cabal lives. That's my take, is that more money is going to dump into IRs once they realize there's more money to be had in IRs.
Yep.
Well, there is quite a lot grading it. I mean, Dama, you grade quite a lot of product. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you're doing that.
Illustration rares are rough. They are rough. And it's like back maybe pre-COVID. It was a lot like pre-COVID, kind of like during COVID, pre-COVID. How you based the value of a card in most situations was its population report and its demand. Now it's like anything. Like as long as it has demand. Yeah.
It's literally, so here's the thing. You got to think, like, if you're a brand new coming in, like, and you just showed up a week ago, all you're going to know is Moonbreon and Van Gogh Pikachu. So that's why cards like that have such insane pops, because you don't care about pop. You just care about what's hot over pop. Okay. Or is vintage, it's, pop over hot. I don't know. Something like that.
Do you think the artworks play into this though? I mean, like, there's a big argument to be made for like these artworks just being like, could you imagine opening, I mean, we're going to pump the pincer as a joke here, but opening this pincer like as a 12-year-old instead of like the Charizards and the Blastoise, I mean, they're amazing artworks back then, but aren't the artworks just so much better? It's so much easier for people to jump on board.
I think it has a lot to do with like money to a degree. Artworks are great and illustrations are great, and that's really what feels like the collector side of the hobby, like a pure, like you collect cards because you like the card, right? But when it comes to money, and I had this conversation with Nick Opossum before, because like when the whole Japanese thing was going down, we talked about it a good bit, and it comes down to value and money, and that's what drives a big form of demand for a lot of things, because there's a level to opening a set when if the highest chase card you can get from a set, and this isn't everybody in the community, because I can open a $35 box of Japanese and the chase card could be $30 and I can still have a good time. But like a lot of people will just not buy something unless there is a chase worth going after. And if the Greninja was a really good example, because in Japanese, Greninja was worth like not much at all on release for was it Crimson Haze? Then it came over in English, and people love Greninja over here. They're like, oh, we love Greninja in English. It's one of our favorites. And Greninja was one of the top Pokemon in Japan, like literally on polls all the time. And it's like, why isn't Greninja doing even better there? Well, people don't care about Japanese. We like our trainers. Comes over to English, where it still has the same demand. And then you put a big price tag on it. You have big price tag. You have popular like Pokemon that people know and love. And then you put it in a rarity slot where it's just not going to be pulled often. All of a sudden, you have a whole mess for a set to do crazy in terms of demand. Now, you look at something like an SV base with like your chases in that. Gardevoir's liked, but Gardevoir on release was like a $40-$50 card. When you consider the price at the time of an SV base booster box, it was like $110 for most people to buy. You can't justify buying a box if your goal is value. And that's why a lot of people were saying at the beginning, like, SV base is trash, SV base is terrible. And it's like, objectively, it is the best base set I think we've ever had. But there's no value, so people didn't care. And this was right off the hype of the white, like the girl card thing, and everybody cared about value. Don't care what Japanese set we're opening as long as it has a high value card. And it, like, look at Miriam, look at Denver, look at.
Sorry,
you're good.
I got to take. So think about, like, there's a lot of cards that are worth a ton of money now, and we don't even bat an eye or think about it. But there was probably some specific reason way back when that nobody remembers that caused that card to go from point A to point B. And if you look at like Latias and Latios tag team, the amount of people who sold that card for $30 raw on eBay, raw copies, I don't know if it was 6 months or an entire year that it was a $30 card.
It's like
Latias and Latios.
6 months.
Yeah, and no one thought about it, and the normal thought process was, oh, it's just a $30 card. Like, okay, so Rusty, TCA Gaming, I was talking to him about it. And he was like, I literally can't tell you how many of those I put in a dollar envelope and just sent off for $30, $24.99, buy it now. And that's a $1,300 card, right? And no one questions it. No one thinks about it. And then you can come to, like, nowadays, I would say it's been a year since anyone's even raised an eyebrow at Magikarp's price, regardless of what Magikarp's price is. Like, because a year ago, Magikarp hit 150 and people kind of went, yeah, I don't know. But then it became like, yeah, it is what it is. I guess Pele Evolves great. All I'm saying is, let's say maybe it's not going to be Drowsy. Maybe it'll be something else. But wouldn't it really be that crazy of a take to say, like, 5 years from now, like, Drowsy is like a $400 or $500 IR, and it's just one of those things that's just been part of the hobby for 3.5 years, and it's just one of those things. Like, but there will be that time, like the Latias and Latios 6 months where it was $30, where anyone for almost 2 years, a year and a half, could have had the Drowsy for $6. But that's just the second. I don't know who it was. Somebody said the second. This might have been Nostalgianomics. He said nobody cares what you paid and what the prices were when you entered the hobby. All anyone cares about is what they are now. So just because you're shocked that something maybe that you own is worth something now, that doesn't mean a bunch of people that want to buy it are shocked as well. They just think that's normal. So all I'm saying is Drowsy 5 years from now could be $500 and everyone could just say that's super normal.
Well, yeah, the market price is what people are willing to pay. It's whatever the market will bear is what's going to come out the other end. Colin, I think I saw something from Opossum as well recently saying, something along the lines of the SIR cards will become kind of the new hyper rares, and illustration rares will kind of replace SIRs in terms of, I think, desirability and also kind of in values as well. And there's this comment up on the screen from Bull Lee, which is a really good profile pic, by the way. That's awesome with the basketball and the Wally. Will SIRs catch up to IR gains? What are your thoughts here? Put you on the spot a little bit, but
I have no idea, to be quite frank, but I mean, it really depends. I think IRs tell that story, which is why I like them so much. And sometimes the special illustration rares are just like a Pokemon, and especially now it's been the Terra Pokemon, and they're big and or small if it's the Charizard from 151, right? But I don't know. I think there's something to be said about the pull rates maybe are a little easier. The pop reports are a little bit less on the IRs. I don't know. It's a hard question. I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks. I personally, my favorite cards are still the special illustration rare cards, but it almost seems like, especially on my live stream Rip and Chip every week, people are chasing the illustration rare card more than the special illustration rare card, which is an interesting change because it certainly didn't feel like that 6 to 12 months ago.
What do you think, Dama?
I mean, SIRs objectively are harder to pull than illustration rares, but then when you view SIR pull, if there's 8 of them and there's 20 something plus illustration rares, the like rates of pulling a specific one can kind of get a little clouded, where it's like you see, like I see these all the time, and they're very like it's data off of say 5,000 packs being ripped, and it's like, oh, every 350 packs you're pulling an SIR, or every whatever this you're pulling this, whatever, or like a specific one or something. And then they'll give like the data for an illustration rare, and it's like, oh, every 1 in 13 you're pulling an illustration rare. But then when you do the math on that, you're like, oh, well, every 1 in 13 packs, but there's a pool of however many, and then there's a pool of how many SIRs and however many packs for an SIR. Then it's like the illustration rares, they're like very close in terms of actual hit rates for a specific one. And then on top of that, you have to consider, is the set is it a main set that has a booster box, or is it a set that doesn't contain one? Like 151 illustration rares, they don't operate in the same way that a booster box does, because a booster box you can get pretty much guaranteed 3 illustration rares in most cases. If you're unlucky, 2 a box. Non-booster box sets, you don't have that guarantee. You don't have that cushion. So then you talk about grading population, how easy it is to get a 10. SIRs, historically, since the beginning of SB base, are easier to grade. They're still not good. Like,
I have
a
way
as
of
an example.
What you just said real quick. Can I explain that? Because
Yeah,
it has a lot to do with surface area. So texture, if you just imagine texture like sandpaper, texture is essentially harder to damage than a nice, clean IR film.
Oh, yeah.
So you can very easily destroy an IR's chances from being a Gem Mint 10, whereas it takes a little more effort to damage an SIR. And just regular factory putting into the pack, moving it around, shipping can damage IRs. They're just way more like, they're probably the most highest risk. If you think of all the different styles of Pokemon cards that the Pokemon Company has ever made, from e-readers to the WotC to everything, it's literally a card that is pure, super easy to scratch surface everywhere, from head to toe, top to bottom, on the front. So surface is harder to get a 10 on in this specific rarity tier, this type of card, than any other type of card that I can imagine. And I'm thinking of like anything from like break cards, like all the different styles of Pokemon cards. It seems, because even like trainer galleries have way more dark, way more bold, way more black in them. Whereas these IRs are that clear light film, a lot of light colors, a lot of like very skies and artworks.
SV base.
like a lot of things where you can see like the crosshairs, like Dama
Mhm.
says, like Call of Duty crosshairs. There's just if you are a grading nerd who loves like someone like me who just loves doing that whole process, like from finding the card, having to wait, and it makes you just more excited to get the grade back, and then you actually get that 10. Like the accomplishment of that for like your favorite Pokemon, and you only had to pay $10 for it, is just way more rewarding than a standard SIR where there's 10 to choose from. And another thing, so Sword and Shield, the alt arts, there's like what 35 or 40 total. I don't know what the total is, but there's only like 25 good ones that people like. It's been several years. Like I'm sick and tired of seeing Gengar VMAX as much as I love it. Whereas illustration rares, I love seeing a random stage 1 or basic Pokemon getting all the highlight for a week or getting some glory. Like, and I just love seeing these random Pokemon and people freaking out about like Trubbish or some weird IR that you would never imagine. So part of that is fun because I do love seeing random Pokemon like Gloom, you know, just doing better than another card. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, if you had MimikBrew mentioning Gloom on your bingo card, you can go ahead and cross it off right now. It was 30 minutes and 58 seconds is when that one came along. Let's
I
pump
haven't
the
checked
largest
Metatite yet. I pumped Metatite yesterday pretty damn hard for like 10 straight minutes in my hottest cards.
Well, some people like to do it longer than others.
Oh, I love that
Yeah,
card.
Larvitar eating poop, 73% graded profit. How important is graded profit, Dharma, when you're looking at these cards? Like, I mean, you know, Brew's talking about and that's a really good point as well. Like, you know, the old school Sabrina's Gengar, like cards with a lot of hollow foil, very hard to grade. Makes a lot of sense with the illustration rares as well for their grading difficulty. But how important is that graded profit when things are just moving like so quickly?
It's like, so I really, and this is my honest opinion, with the current rate at which things are moving, the people that are going to see the most success with a graded copy of these illustration rares that are being like pumped or bought out are the people that already had the cards in 10, because the process with PSA going there and back, backlog, whatever else is going on, right? By the time you get your card back, the card could have already gone and went and corrected at its new price, and the high sales of 2, 3, 4, whatever it was at, probably have come back down to somewhere that's still above where it was, but not as high as it could have been. So it's kind of hard to get a grasp on like the consistency of the 10 sales of illustration rares unless they are like super low population with very minimal sales data, and the sales data is consistently around the same price point, because then you're like, oh, the people that own these like pop 30, 40 cards like from SV Base, they don't want to get rid of them unless it is for $300 to $400. Then you're like, that's what I have to pay. If I want it, I have to pay that. Versus like any very high pop 10 card that can, or a decently pop 10 card that can get demand and shoot up, but then everybody else sees it's shooting up, and then they start listing their copies, and nobody wants to pay $350, so somebody lists $340, that sells. Somebody lists $340, that doesn't sell. $330, and then it just kind of climbs back down. And so it's important to certain ones, but the ones that are getting pushed very quickly, it's like, it's what I think I said something about the Baxcalibur when the Baxcalibur really moved. And I was like, the price of the raw card right now does not justify with the PSA 10 price. It just doesn't, because you're paying all this for this raw card that is from a great storyline, great Komiya art. Komiya has that push right now with the Drowsy, and now the Brute Bonnet and the Oricorio and everything else. But like, you can't justify spending a card that was literally $16, not even 3 weeks ago, and now it was at its high like 60, 70. Like, there just doesn't make any sense spending $60, $70 for that card at that price point if the objective, which for a lot of the Paldea Evolved illustration rares, is to grade them because they're such bad quality and you want to make so much money on the 10 flip. But it's like the card was still a $250 10 at those highs. It just didn't make sense. And for it to make sense of buying at these high price points, whether it be 30, 40, 50, like the 10 has to reflect that to a degree. And it didn't. And maybe it does now, but it's like, it's hard to just jump on a card and be like, oh, it's such a good buy because it's hot right now, or it's moving. It's like, yeah, but if you're like, I don't know, it's just raw values are tricky, because if you buy a $5 card and it becomes a $10 card and then you sell it, like you got to take all your fees. You got to take all the fees you had to pay on top of buying the card. You got like there's so much little minimal things taken off of it. It's like, is it worth it in the grand scheme? Unless you're doing hundreds of sales, it's not really worth it in comparison to a lot of other things that are more like lucrative to make money in the hobby. And that's why it's like graded value with cards. It's important for the illustration rares especially, but it has to make sense. It can't just be like, this card's expensive now, so it's going to
Nothing has to make sense in Pokemon. That's your biggest flaw in everything you just said. Nothing actually has to make sense.
It had to for a long period of time, though. Like, things made sense for a long time, to a degree. Like, the common trope of your Pikachus, your Charizards, your Evolutions are always up there, no matter what. That's not something that doesn't make sense. That's always made sense and always been consistent no matter what. The current market, it doesn't have to. You can, with grading, make sense of it, but like that's because illustration rares are super bad quality, and that's why it kind of like makes sense.
All it takes, honestly, all it takes is any random big or small thing to happen in pop culture, and that trumps all the mathematics. Like, so if Chum-Li all of a sudden gets on somewhere and he's like, this Larvitar is my favorite, like, I can guarantee you Larvitar will never go back down to whatever it is now. And it doesn't matter what the pop is. You know, it just doesn't matter. And that's why a lot of people like Pokemon, is the controlled chaos about it. That's what I like about
Moonbreon is an example. How many copies are 10 now? 20,000+ or something?
Yeah.
Sure. It's like the market's
really
changed
doesn't
a
matter.
lot.
So the pop will never matter. What will matter is if a better, more badass artwork, you know, Moonbreon that just clearly one-ups it. Maybe, you know, it's things like that where it's like pop culture, like attention that draws attention away from it. And so that's why I say, I think all of you are underestimating the longevity of IRs, both raw and graded, because awareness goes a long way, and it doesn't take that many extra people to help prop up these raw prices that these Discord pumper bros, you know, originally did. But they originally do it, and like you always say, Dama, it only takes a little bit of movement to get a ton of people to see it, freak out, FOMO, and then that helps prop the price up from that point forward for the rest of history. So if I had to, like, okay.
Like do you think the population does have an impact then now, even though not the way it did, but to a degree of a justification for pumping?
Specifically, okay, so here's the thing. Take into account that I'm not talking about Pokemon cards when I talk about pop mattering now. I am talking about specifically illustration rare Pokemon cards. And what I mean by that is them developing their own niche within a niche, like people who are just hardcore illustration rare fans. Because one thing I can tell you is PSA is already doing its best to control pop these IRs, or some of these IRs that were even 40 or 50 bucks in a 10 wouldn't be so low pops. Did I just disconnect?
No, you're good.
No, you're in still. Low pops.
You're good. Okay. So all I'm saying is we're talking 2 years deep into some illustration rares. Their pop reports are insanely low, and that doesn't stay that low unless Nat Turner's, you know, behind closed doors doing a little like, hey, because that's just insanely low for a modern Pokemon card when everything around it is a high pop. So I'm just saying, the people who appreciate pops, I think they will justify those into prices when it comes to specifically illustration rares. Not other stuff like full arts and SIRs. I literally think that a niche within a niche for IRs is going to develop because of how uniquely low their pops are on a lot of them.
That's an interesting take. I can see Cerulege here as well at the top here. Like, I'm going to add Cerulege to the stage because, oh my word, I love Cerulege. I think Cerulege, no bullshit here, guys. I think that's going to be the next Umbreon. I think it's going to be the next Charizard. This is a fucking badass Pokemon, man. And this illustration rare is amazing.
I disagree. Worst IR ever.
The SIR is even better from Prismatic Evolutions. I like that.
Totally disagree
a lot. I like that one a lot. I think it's
have either of you, or any of you, not either, any of you actually pulled that card from Prismatic or from Terrestrial Festival? It is legitimately the most shockingly gorgeous card I've ever seen in my life. Like, I thought to myself when I hadn't pulled it, yeah, it's a cool card. I like Cerulege a lot. I like the illustration rare. And then I finally pulled it out of a Terrestrial box, and I was just speechless how good it is.
You want me to go grab it?
Well, I've seen it, but I mean, yes, it's amazing. It made
I
me
just want to
speechless.
be like goated polls and just show all my Cerulege cards.
Yeah,
just
go
just
ahead.
take up the rest of the stream.
Yeah.
This is my baby shiny Cerulege. This is my Cerulege Hollow Rare.
Well, let me get you on the. Sorry, you're not even on the screen. You want? Let's get.
You're just watching me just laugh.
Sorry, we're just watching Colin. He got solo layer.
I'm
Sorry,
just
I was watching the
pretending.
chat.
I'm
Come on,
just
go ahead.
pretending.
Oh, you actually don't have it. Okay.
You want me to go get it? I'll get it.
I don't care. But
yeah, I'll get it. Let me get it. Go back to someone else.
Like,
I'll go get it. I'm gonna go get my Cerulege.
Go ahead, get your Cerulege. This card is gonna blow up, guys. This is the next one to pump, 100%. So there was a comment above here. I'm not gonna be able to find it, but I guess I'll give this one to Colin. So like modern cards, PSA slabs are treated more like NFTs. Was the comment? I mean, what do you make of that? Because I got some interesting thoughts there. But what do you think of this? So like the new NFT game.
I want to hear the host's thoughts.
Cards.
Like the way I think about that right away is that if we're treating it like NFTs, well, then there's about to be a lot of pain, whether it's 6 months from now or whether it's 2 years from now. And lots of people, like, it does make sense. Lots of people are making lots of money and lots of people are having a lot of fun right now, just like it was back in whatever 2020, 2021 with the NFTs. And now lots of those NFTs are total garbage and not worth anything and no one cares anymore. And I think Pokemon is way different than that because ultimately, like, the bread and butter, the cornerstone of Pokemon is people who have loved Pokemon since 1999. It's not just a new thing. Even if I wasn't into Pokemon cards in my 20s, I still loved Pokemon. Like that never changed, right? And there's lots of people who I think
has a burning place in your heart deep down inside that you never forget and you always
in my loins,
for.
Man. Right?
You can feel it burning deep inside you.
That changes. NFTs is actually just like Bored Ape Yacht Club. Cool, I'm gonna join that. Oh, no one cares anymore? Neither do I. And literally, like, I can't think of a time in my life when I didn't like Pokemon. Even when I was like one of those stupid teenagers who, everything's stupid. I hate everyone and everything. You know?
When am I going to show them? Bro, I have my Ceruleges. They've just been sitting here exposed.
All right, show us your Ceruleges, goated.
Yeah, look at those bad boys.
Dan said he doesn't like him, but secretly he does.
Oh, God.
Dan says a lot of things that he doesn't actually think.
That Pokemon is friggin' incredible, man. That's like the best Gen 9 Pokemon. I gotta tell you that right now. It's friggin' amazing. Look at him. Oh, he's so pretty. He's so pretty. I don't know, this NFT thing, I mean, like, the big difference is, like, NFTs at the end of the day are just a JPEG file, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can hold the thing in your hand. You can enjoy it. I think that's why there's such a fascination, is that Pokemon means so much to people. It's not just a board yacht club. Like Colin said there as well. And Len, I can't afford Rudy. He's like 10 grand minimum for like a 20-minute appearance. Like I can't get Rudy on the show. There's no.
Why am I on screen still? I didn't even know I was on screen.
Showing off your Ceruleges. That's why I was giving you some Cerulege action. I thought there was more coming. Goated usually has a stack of them. Like you only get one of each.
Folks. At work, I'll just literally be walking by myself and I'll just be like, folks, and I'll try it in like different tones. And then I'll switch in and I'll and then I'll go back to folks.
Oh man,
folks. It's so much fun. I've loved Rudy for so long, and so I'll just say folks, and then I get happy. Like if I'm in a bad mood, folks.
That's Rudy. Oricorio, yeah. I want to be. I know what the exit strategy is for the 500 Oricorios. Did you see that Oricorio card going up, Dama? The like 1,000% in a day or whatever.
Yeah, what is it at now? Is it like
an $8 card, isn't it? Like
$8 for an Oricorio.
All that work to take a 80-cent card to $8 for 3 days, so it can go back to $4 and then bleed down to $2.50 a month later, and then we never talk about it ever again. Good job.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of a goofy one. I'm sure like there's someone out there that made some good money on some Oricorio, like $100.
Trying to pump a yellow border Crown Zenith is one of the most futile things you could do.
There's too many of them. There's so many.
It's already the easiest set. It's the easiest hits from the easiest set.
Yeah, they're great. They look awesome. They're super
unless it's
like a
Mew or Lapras,
so great.
Or Latias. Mew, Lapras, or Latias. Maybe a little Baidu faction. There's a few solid ones that definitely should be $5 to $10 for sure, but not.
I read it wrong.
The Mew though can be any price it wants.
Yeah,
Just
Mew
Mew
sleeping.
things.
Mew sleeping.
Remember when
I
Mew
have that
VMAX
one in a
Altar was
slab
like $30?
right there.
Mhm. Who is Chum? I don't even know who Chumley is. Me and Rocker are on the same page. It was
That's
Chumley all
God.
about.
Chum Lee,
Chum.
bro.
Is this like a rap thing?
Big Chum.
Chum Lee, Pawn Stars.
Shout out Chum. Big Chum.
No, I don't know what that is. A
You
music
don't know what
artist?
Pawn Stars is?
Rick Harrison, Chum Lee,
Oh,
Chum,
I know
Chum
the guys
Lee.
who look at them, but no, I don't know. who Chumley is.
Big Chum been to
Rupert
prison.
Jackson,
He
here we go.
knows.
Sorry, I was just being facetious for Sandy. There we go. Who's into heavily played cards? What a weird comment. Well, hey, some people like PSA ones, right?
There's a
heavily
market.
I know the. Hey, do you guys know the secret to getting a PSA 1? We can ruin it right now if you want.
fold it in half.
Give it to Chum
No,
Lee.
there's an actual automatic qualifier that very few people know.
What is it?
Wait, that's actually a really big deal if I just say it like out loud. Like I can
Do you
get
want me to
sued
like
by
change
PSA
the thumbnail
probably.
so you can say it?
No, look, I think there's a lot of people that know. I don't want to say it. I don't want to be the one that gets sniped by Nat Turner.
There's the answer. Snipe. You need a gun. You put a gun to the card, and it's a 1. That's how you do
Essentially.
it. That's basically
That's pretty close. Yeah, that's close enough.
cigarette buds. There you go.
You're getting closer. You're getting closer and closer. Keep getting smaller, and you'll eventually be right.
Heroin needle.
The comment from Dad, can I be a
Almost there.
girl? I think has it bang on. You
Where
wipe
is
your
it?
ass with it.
Monkey is right.
Sure.
Monkey is right. This is why we stop, guys. This is why we love Cerulege. What he just said about the Dark Souls comparison.
Mhm.
Dark Souls, medieval, Final Fantasy, like Cerulege is a vibe, and that's why people
all
love
that, man.
Cerulege.
It's dark, man. It's like Giratina. It's got the
It's
emo
so
vibes.
cool.
The animation in
Cool.
Horizons was nuts.
Yes.
The fight, wow.
Isn't it a girl in Horizons?
I think so, and that thing kicked the shit out of Gengar. It was like, I
Oh, yeah.
love Gengar, and I was like, oh my god, my boy, he just got handed his ass.
100%. 100%. Cerulege, trust
Love
me, guys. Like that's the next big thing. Like Greninja.
It's-
It just passed
It's
Eevee.
great.
You don't need to listen to Rob. Just look at the top of the Prismatic Evolutions
I
leaderboard.
don't mean in terms
Where's
of
that
the
Discord
TCG.
group?
I mean in terms of like people just like banging it really hard. Like this is the best Pokemon. Like I mean just in Pokemon in general. Like Cerulege. Give it 5 years, guys.
Do you know the most popular in Japan right now?
No, tell me.
Tinkaton
Oh, really?
That's so
Tinkaton
believable.
is the number 1 in Japan, and then I think it's like, if I remember correctly, it's Meowscarada and then Paldean Clodsire. It's like, and then I think Cerulege is like top 5, but
As long as it's not Quackaville. I fucking hate that Pokemon.
Zesty Duck, I love him.
Is there a weird
Yeah, why are you
Like-
hating on the quack?
No, I seriously love him. He's
Quaxley
he's
should
so-
never evolve. Don't
Yep.
ever let Quaxley evolve. That's the biggest mistake right there.
Is that Tinkaton thing like a weird waifu vibe? Like something going on there weird with I know those guys are into their kinky stuff.
That's a great question.
Like a dominatrix guy.
I mean, I think Japan has enough of the girl cards in any thing, Pokemon or not, to satisfy that, or satiate that. I think Tinkaton's more like, I don't know. That's one thing that I don't have an answer for. Because even if you look at like Paldea Evolved, you'd think there'd be or not Paldea Evolved for it's not Triplet Bead, is it Clayburst or Snow Hazard? One of the two, whichever one the Tinkaton's in. I think the Tinkaton isn't even like. It didn't even compete with the trainer because it's the most popular Pokemon there. So it's like, just how Japan works with their cards.
Yep. What about waifus in English? Waifus in Japanese, obviously we've seen what's happened with those guys. They're still very prized. But do you think waifu cards, particularly SIRs, are going to have a chance to come back?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll ask you that, yeah.
Only good ones that deserve it. So not just because, the waifu tax. I think good waifu cards will grow in value. And then because of that, not aggressively and in a toxic manner, but I think good waifu cards will go up healthy because they're just good cards. Yeah. So for example, there's a lot of full arts like Carmine from Twilight Gatorade and a few others where if you look at the 6-month graph, they've just slowly but surely gone from $4 to $8, like a whole bunch of them.
Carmine's a great SIR. Perrin's got a storyline. I think the Grusha SIR from Paldea is fantastic because the winter thematic, like that card is beautiful.
That is a fantastic Bromeo card.
It's so good. I mean, even like, what is his name? Sugoro. It's like Goofy, him just cooking with a Jigglypuff and stuff. Like, clearly, I don't think that one's gonna go crazy any day. But like, the illustrations on these SIRs for the trainers are like, a lot of them are really, really good, and some are okay, but a lot of them are solid. And it's like, dang, the arts are great. They really hit it, regardless of price. The SIRs, they hit it out the park. Like, they're really good.
Colin, best waifu that never printed is Ash's mom. If they make one, I'll buy 10,000 copies, says AMPM Pokemon. I mean, I'm inclined to
check
agree
my
with
channel on Monday for an Ash's mom variation on Stacy's mom song. I'll get AI to write it.
What about Ash's dad?
Yeah.
Well, you were just talking hype about Grusha as a dude, so
there we
I
go.
like
Grusha.
He's not even close to the only one. That's literally Shinyvert's ex-girlfriend. Every time Shinyvert would pull that card, he would freak out and lick his lips. It's so cringy. And everyone in the comment section would be like, you know that's a dude, right? You know it's and he'd just be like, he literally would be doing the sound effects with his glasses on, like, oh, that Grusha.
I just joke about it all the time now, though. Like, if I pull a Dendra card or if I pull a Airy card or Poppy or anyone, you know that's a dude, right?
No,
is Iona
apparently
worth
not.
the hype? I'm going to give this one to Dama. Iona worth the hype. I'm assuming we're going to talk about the Iona from Paldea Evolved.
You need another Japanese boom or like some kind of Japanese push because English don't care too much about. It's not that they don't care, because if you look at like black and white full arts, they're. But then again, that's based on like, again, bringing it back to pop report and stuff. Like the black and white full arts, a lot of them are low pop, and that's why they're like expensive for the full arts. But for you, like for modern English SIRs, you need. But then like you look at Carmine and you look at Perrin in the recent one, so it's like, do you? I think Journey Together is going to be a big.
Perrin's almost up to $100.
Yeah, like she's $90
probably right now, even
and
higher.
You can't say
Carmine.
it's just because of the storyline. Like it's not. It's a great card. So I think Journey Together is going to give us a big idea on what will occur with other trainer-based cards, because Journey Together is going to be the introduction of a lot of the trainer and their Pokemon. So, you know, basically what SIRs for trainers were doing, but not saying like, oh, this is, you know, it's not Grusha's Starly because he's looking out the window and there's Starly. It's But if you put that there, now you could be like, oh, that is Grusha Starly. Oh my God. Like I think going into Journey Together, we might see a shift in the cards in an upward direction because we're now introducing trainers with their Pokemon in the SIR format. But I think if there was ever another push in Japanese, the first cards that are going to go are, you know, your Iono, your Dendra, your Miriam, your Carmine, your Pair, etc. Like those will move first. And
I need
then
to say
that will
something
have
before I forget. Sorry.
No,
so the Carmine and the Perrin.
Stop interrupting people when they're mid-flow, dude. Like you gotta wait.
I'm all for it. No, I'm all for it.
I was waiting, biting my tongue. Think about this. Carmine is the classic waifu, yes or no? That artwork, that card with the egg yolk, is that not the most classic waifu card imaginable?
It's the sexual innuendo, underage, but yeah, it's everything that's wrong with the scene.
So it is a perfect example of a Pokemon waifu card, right?
Yes, it is.
Whereas Perrin is paired is an artwork. And all I'm saying is if you need an indicator on what's hot right now, is it waifus or is it connected artworks? Well, guess what? Perrin just passed up Carmine by almost $20. Like that. So all I'm saying is there's your proof that the connected artwork does a lot for market value for both cards, to the extent that Perrin is like, you know, way more expensive than Carmine now.
That's
storylines are.
That is fair enough. So I want to address this comment up here that I put on the screen about Ash's dad being Professor Oak. I am pretty sure in Red and Blue there is a bit where I think you're in Celadon City on Cerulean. I can't remember where it is, but you use the vending machine, and it's something like the soda that pops out. He says, "I bet Dad would love this." I'm pretty sure Oak is not his dad, but I think Oak might want to be his dad at some point. But yeah, there's that's been disproven, I believe. Have a look on Reddit for that one, but I'm pretty sure we're still on Tinkaton stuff here as well. Brock is Ash's dad.
It's Mr. Mime. It's always been.
It's
Whoa.
instant money.
That's why Ash has all that plot armor, because he's like low key psychic. Nobody
That
knew.
makes sense. That makes sense. So what's going to happen to like trainer galleries, for example, from Swish? I know we talk Galarian galleries are super common, super easy to pull. What about some of these Swish trainer galleries that, you got $1-2 cards? I mean, the Gengar from Lost Origins got a huge graded profit. I mean, Colin, do you see these cards getting a pump in the next little while? Do you see those guys shooting up? Is that going to be kind of the next thing?
Maybe this is a hot take, maybe not, but I don't think people care nearly as much about Sword and Shield as they do about Scarlet and Violet right now. I think so many people have come back into the hobby in Scarlet and Violet era. I think there's a real love for what's happening in terms of like the direction Pokemon's going. Obviously not the way that it's happening, but I think illustration rares right from the get-go. I think special illustration rares. I think storylines in Scarlet and Violet, silver borders, all playing a part. I personally prefer illustration rares like tenfold over Galarian, or not Galarian, trainer gallery cards. I could be wrong. Maybe as these start to go up in price, maybe people turn to trainer gallery again. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that people like the here and now. I think there's a lot of forgetfulness about Sword and Shield now that we're 3/4 of the way through Scarlet and Violet era.
Interesting. What about you, Dama? I think that's an interesting take. What do you think, Dama?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll have their day in the sun. I mean, everything usually does at some point, and you're already seeing it with certain cards. Hit rates for them are, they're, I don't know what they are in comparison, like based on data to illustration rares. I don't think they're nearly as difficult. Because you would get like back in a Sword and I'm trying to think like Lost Origins, the last booster box for Sword and Shield.
I think you usually got like 3 trainer
like
galleries plus maybe 1 of the textured ones.
Yeah, it was. I felt like I was always hitting 3 to 4, and then one of the textured ones usually hit 1. So it's like, but then again, like Sword and Shield was like we're already past Sword and Shield's like print for a lot of it. Like I'm sure there's still products that pop up with Sword and Shield packs and all that, and that's a lot of product that was already printed and then put into things. And so like we've gone through a lot of Sword and Shield, so there's a lot of volume on market for these cards. However, like Bruce said earlier, you don't need a reason anymore. It doesn't. If people want to make it a $20 card overnight, it doesn't take a big wallet or like a crazy big wallet to do it, and it can happen. And then everybody's just like, oh. And the thing is, like, let's call it like it is real quick. LGSs, vendors, a lot of people, even if they directly know something's getting pumped or they know something will not last, they're taking full advantage of the situation and they're feeding into it. TCG player sellers feed into it 100%. Not all of them, but some do. And they take advantage of it because it's money. If that's your livelihood in your business, you're going to. So they're going to push a narrative on top of an already pumpy-esque, buyout-esque, like, this card is now this price. And I think the Sword and Shield cards, to answer your question, I do think they'll experience something very similar to that for a majority at some point. Because it reminds me of like Sun and Moon with like Dream League. It's again kind of a comparison, but Dream League character rares, they were super, 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 super cheap for like ever. And then people cared for whatever reason. It can be whatever reason. In that case, it was the girl card market going crazy. And then people ran to those and were like, these are the best things ever. And then they look at Cosmic Eclipse. They're like, these are the best things ever because they're these ones, but English. And then I think that you can have situations like that arise. You just need one little thing to tip the domino, and then any card hypothetically can have its day in the sun. I think they're likely to because of the illustration rares, though.
Yeah, it feels like that's the world we're living in as well. When you've got like, Trump coin going up with no intrinsic value, right? You can't use it in his hotels, can't do anything of that. I got nothing against Trump, nothing for Trump. But when you see that happening so often on the altcoin space and in the shitcoin space, like it's just like, okay, well, why not Pokemon? Like, why can't it be that as well? Like, if people are going to give, a $3 trillion market cap to Butthole Coin or whatever, then why not? Why can't the Sleeping Mew be like a $100 card? Like, I'm inclined to agree with that for sure. So, guys,
Can
we're
you
we're
please
about 10
ask
minutes
me?
off. One second,
Can
Mick.
you?
We're about 10 minutes off from finishing the live, guys. So if you haven't already, make sure that you go and subscribe. Something magical happens when you hit the subscribe button on our channels. Okay, like things get bigger, your car gets better, there's more money in your bank account. Try it. Just try hitting that subscribe and hitting that bell. Make sure you subscribe to me, to Dama, to Mimic, and to Colin as well. Mimic, what were you going to say?
So the trainer galleries. First of all, you'll notice I did 0 interrupting, and I patiently waited, but I really wanted to answer your question.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So it was about trainer galleries, but you guys kept saying sword and shield cards. And I think in general, you guys are generalizing things too much, whereas I think the average collector is way more intelligent. And there's a very specific reason I run hottest cards of the week in the order and the format, and I cover the specific sets and subsets that I do. It's because they are the most popular subsets. And so basically what I'm saying is sword and shield as an entirety is not popular and is not that great. What is great is the trainer galleries and the alt arts. So don't think of it as will sword and shield be cool again, or will sword and shield. No, just think of it as the trainer galleries and the alt arts. And in my opinion, and from volume and from spikes and prices and ups and downs like last May, it is specifically the alt arts and the trainer galleries that are the only thing that people care about from sword and shield. And because of that, they are actually going to care about that for a long time. And I also forgot about Crown Zenith. And here's what I'll say is Crown Zenith, the trainer galleries and the alt arts, that all that little section there of sword and shield, that's what people love. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of new people just think Crown Zenith is a Scarlet and Violet set, to be honest, just out of ignorance, because of the way it's just way more vibing like an SV set with the Galarian gallery and illustration rare galleries. So all I'm saying is, like, don't ask the question, will sword and shield be popular? It literally is the trainer galleries, and the answer is yes. Like Starmie just now for the first time ever hit $100 raw last week, and you guys are asking the question, are trainer galleries popular? Like a trainer gallery just hit $100 raw like this week. So yes, the answer is yes, and people do view them as a cool retro version of illustration rares, kind of.
I don't think we were asking that question. I think the question was more
Oh,
pertained to
sorry.
the, like no. No,
My
no,
bad.
I think
I just wanted
because, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I view trainer galleries like the Misties, the Garchomp, etc. I kind of view them as like, and I viewed them as it because coming from the Japanese market primarily as like CSRs, like character seeker rares. So I kind of I've always called them that rather than trainer galleries. I have a bad habit of calling them that. But so, like, at least when answering that question, I was pertaining more towards the it would be I always art rares for Japanese, but Galarian gallery and trainer gallery primarily for English. Because the CSRs, or the trainer galleries, but of the full card, no yellow border. Like, a lot of those are already crazy. They're nuts, and they've been, because they should be. They're great.
Borders. Yeah, I was talking about yellow borders specifically. I should have mentioned that, but I
think,
like
the Starmie is, it's almost like an alt art, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
like
yeah,
those have always been popular. Yeah, sure, they keep going up because they're amazing cards. I'm talking specifically about like the
cheaper ones are more expensive than ever now. Look at Survivor V; it's $20. Did you know Survivor V was $20?
But it's the V and V Max cards are going to do well for sure.
There's a Survivor card? Or wait,
Superior.
I was like, dude, there's just where have I been?
Yeah, sorry.
Like, that would be sweet.
I was actually thinking about
look at the Gengar and Pikachu. They're like 16 and 20. So it doesn't matter if it's yellow border.
Those ones have always been expensive, though.
No, they haven't.
They were like
Gengar was $3.
$4.
Pikachu and Gengar were $3 and $4. Charizard was $4. All these yellow borders were all under $5, and now many of them are over $10.
Yeah, release most were like 7 to 8, 10 high. Maybe.
Gengar was literally $3 for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
but like on release of set, a lot of them were about 7 on release to 8, and then highs of 10 for like Charizard, and then they immediately.
That was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, on release of set, everything on release is pumped up and looks great, and then we come back down to earth, and there's stupid amounts of volume, and everything's $4, $3, $2 for most.
All of these were selling. All these are selling in PSE 10 slabs for like $50 tops. Like literally, you'd be lucky to get $50 for these in a PSA 10 slab. Like that Pikachu, I've got that in a Gem Mint 10. Same with the Gengar so many times, and I sold it for $44.95 on eBay. Buy it now. Like that was the going rate for these things a year and a half ago.
Top 5 graded, top 4 graded profits in all the Sword and Shield era right now are the Gengar, the Pikachu, the Zekrom, and the Mew. So training galleries hold the biggest graded profit right now, according to TCG Science, which is an interesting point. I'm a big fan of graded profits. I think even though you're going to wait, whatever. What's the lead time right now? What are you guys grading out at, Dama? If you submit, are you 6 to 8 weeks, or are you doing like a faster turnaround?
PSA right now, I'm taking a little halt from because of the craziness. Typically, when crazy periods of the hobby happen, PSA is interesting.
Stiff.
Yeah,
Stiff.
I'll just call it that. They're interesting, and I usually wait. Unless it's like expressed with something that I know is just a smart move, I'm usually just kind of biding my time and just taking a back end to the PSA subs, and I'll try with like if I want to go for something with Beckett, or I usually don't. CGC isn't like, regardless of the controversy, there is still value in modern CGC, but not as comparatively to the other ones. No, like a lot of the cases, nowhere near. It's still good, but it's not as good. And then like Tag is clearly Tag's here to stay, right?
It is.
Japanese side, ARS, I think and again, no affiliation, no sponsor. ARS, I think, are the most beautiful slabs in the entire market, my opinion.
Can you explain how you do that? Because you have it. Yeah, you have it in your business model as part of your grading packages. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so when it comes to with ARS or like other ones?
ARS specifically, because
Yeah,
I
so
would love to
ARS
get some cards graded with ARS.
Dude, yeah, so here's how this took me a minute. It took me about a year and a half to find a middleman, because all the middlemen that were doing ARS were charging me, and I'm not kidding, like $300 to $350 per card to send. And their justification for this was, well, we get this many spots, and we middleman to a middleman to ARS, because to get ARS grading, you have to read, write, speak. Like, you don't need to speak. You just need to read and write in Japanese, but you also need an address and a physical address. You can't use a proxy. And then they're going to send you paperwork, which you have to fill out in fluent, whatever, hiragana, katakana, whatever. You need to fill that out in that. You need to submit the cards, all how they got to be, and you get 20 spots. And then you have submission periods, and in those submission periods, they will tell you when they are. It's not like you can send whenever. No, you have to do it by this submission period, 20 cards, and then you need a Japanese individual who can be your middleman, who is willing to give you however many spots and whatever they decide they want to charge you. So it took me a while to find somebody, and I finally did, and I was like, well, what are we doing here? And he's like, I understand if you don't want to, but I'm going to need this amount. And I'm like, this is cheaper than what I've had before, and I don't know if I'm going to have another shot. So let's do it. There's a lot of cards I want to grade, and I know a lot of people love them for my stream. So we're going to do it. And then I broke it down as well, as transparent as I could to everyone. Was like, this is the price. Like, I have to pay this. We have to pay. This is what we have to do. And people were like, don't care. And I'm like, are you sure? Because you could just take a lot of these cards to PSA and it's much cheaper. There's better flip. But if you're grading the right cards with ARS, the premium is nuts for certain ones. If you're hitting a 10 plus on a very in-demand Japanese card, like the ARS 10 Umbreon SAR from Terastal was with confirmed sales consistently was $1,500, I believe, versus the PSA 10 was what, 8 to 9? Mm-hmm. So and then you take Japanese QC, it's look at the 10 plus rate. It's not like a Beckett black label. It's more along the lines of between a pristine 10 and a black label right in the middle. And it's still if you consider Japanese QC, if you can look at a card and say, oh, this, and this, I think this has a good shot. And just find your really desirable cards that people want to buy. And the Japanese community loves ARS, and they love offloading ARS as well for not as desirable cards. And even the English market starting to buy on eBay ARS 10 pluses at wild prices. And it's I genuinely think moving forward, they're going to be a very underrated company that people will start to talk more and more and more about, and it will just kind of naturally do its thing. Versus giving an example with Tag. Tag is come very quickly. I see it in my face everywhere, whether I want to or not. I think it looks great. I love the process. I think it's awesome, but it's like it feels very, and again, nothing against Tag. I think they're great. It's just, it feels very like in my face. And I'm like, I think the comparison would be, I think ARS is going to move very at its own pace, whereas Tag is like, we're here, bitch. Like kind of like how CGC was in the COVID era. It's like CGC was like, oh, we grade comic books. Let's do cards. And everyone's like, okay, hell yeah, dude.
Didn't work out so great. Well, guys, look, we're gonna wrap up. I want to address this one. I want to put this one to Dama as well. So on trainer galleries and glaring galleries harder to buy out because of the huge volume. So we'll go to a buyout question to wrap us up here. So you're stealing a point from, I think, your video yesterday. I didn't see that video. So is that true?
Oh yeah, like Brew brought it up earlier. It's the second you buy out whatever amount, or second you buy a lot of copies, they're right back on. It's like they're listed immediately right back up because there's so much. Whereas like with illustration rares, it's a little different. They'll be listed back up, but it comes in like waves after the big portion of cards bought. And I'll give you an example because this is what I want to end on with. And again, this is not to pump or push a card, but I'll give you an example. The Slitherwing illustration rare. I have all the screenshots to validate this. I spent $400 on 50 Slitherwing illustration rares, and the price went up 20 cents. So that proves if you buy a lot of a card, it doesn't push the price up to these astronomical highs. It also proves that when the card, after I bought 50 copies, it's not like they were just flooded on the market because everyone's like, oh, they're buying all this volume. Let's list all our copies. Like, no, the volume stayed the same, and then it kept getting bought after and getting lower and lower because people see high volume and they think I should buy instead of I should list, versus Galarian galleries, trainer galleries, and, you know, CSRs, I call them in Japanese, but they're, you know, they're in their own realm. They get listed up so fast. It's just there's too much volume. And it's, if anything, like the Oricorio, that thing goes up for a day. It will be a day. And then in 2 days, it's down half. 3 days, it's down even more. It's just, there's so much volume. It's very hard to make that work. And I don't know. It's illustration rares are different. Galarian Gallery cards they're just crazy. They're wild. There's so many.
Well, there is a lot ahead, guys. There is a lot ahead. There's a lot more shenanigans to come. We got lots of great sets coming. We got a lot more pumping. I don't think this market is anywhere near done. I think we got a lot more fun and games ahead of us. We are going to be wrapping up for tonight, though, my friends. So, Mimic, where can everybody find you, my friend?
At MimikBrew.
That's what it is. At MimikBrew. Dama, where can everybody find you?
MimikBrew.
You can find me at Leonhardt.
At Leon.
I love Big League, genuinely. Love Big League.
Where can everybody find you?
Actually?
Colin. I said Colin. But
I thought you asked. I was like, no, at Leonhardt.
No, Colin.
I didn't hear you. I actually have 2 YouTube channels. One's called MimikBrew and one called Dama. So pretty sweet. Go check them out.
Go and check them out, guys. Go and check them out. We try and keep it to a tight hour here, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of the weekend. We have Denerion on Wednesday. I'm really pumped for this one. She's an incredible artist. I've been really excited to interview her. So she's going to be coming on Wednesday, and then we are joined by the PokePlumber on Friday night. We will be live on Colin's channel on Tuesday night, the PokeOffice as well. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you to the guests today, and until next time, take it easy.
See ya.